Welcome to our house. This is the Screenplay Podcast. We're here back for our second week of season 2. I'm your host, Evan Grenis, and with me, as always, is PGA Tour player Andrew Novak.
What's up, everyone? Another week closer to getting to see some real football. Couldn't be more excited. We're here to break down some more things carrying on from last week.
Yeah, we're gonna get into some QB battles, some schedules. We're gonna break down the AFC, get into fantasy, and hit you with a little gambling action at the end. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at screenplay_podcasts. New episodes every Wednesday, 8 a.m. on your favorite podcast streaming service. Let's get into we talked about the preseason a little bit last week. We'll do it a little bit just to start off the show. Has anything from this preseason changed your thoughts on any teams, any fantasy, any predictions, anything at all?
I mean, there's definitely some impact. You can look at some usage numbers, and there's always like a few injuries and stuff that tweak some stuff. But honestly, I've been, I don't want to jinx this. We got one more week of it. I've been pretty impressed. There have not been a ton of injuries. I feel like in the past, there's been, at this point, you would have had like at least probably two or three like serious like game-changing injuries potentially shaking up the fantasy boards a bit.
And what's
And
your
so
stance on
far,
playing in the preseason? Like
so
if you were in the league, would you want to get out there or no?
yeah, so that was like I kind of had that in my notes. Like that may be why there's less injuries. Maybe guys playing less. It is interesting though to see teams like the Kansas City Chiefs, like very like a good football team out there. And this has always been Andy Reid's philosophy, but he's got his starters out there playing. And then the Panthers, Bryce Young hasn't taken a snap in the
I don't
preseason.
get the
This is
Bryce Young thing.
like you would think, and this is coming from a Panthers fan, you would think we'd need some reps. Like
Yep.
we're not good enough to be just sitting there like, oh, we're good. Like we're gonna come out game one rolling. Like they've done this for like a few years. Even the last coaching staff, like Baker Mayfield had like 4 snaps in the preseason, I want to say, before he went out there. And I was there for like the first game playing the Browns. He looked horrible for the
Maybe
whole
they
first
just
half.
want to maybe they just
He
want to
looked
keep the hype
rusty.
up for the season for an extra 2 weeks because they
I
know once they put
guess.
a starter out there that
Yeah. I
the
don't know.
fans are gonna.
I did see a thing today saying Coach Canales was saying that he was thinking about like playing the starters in the final game, which is kind of interesting because you think if somebody gets dinged up, you'd want them like to have a little more time to get back. I don't know, kind of weird, but
Yeah, the
I don't know.
philosophies
We'll
are
see.
all over the place
It's
across the
it,
league, and
it seemed like it was very standard with 4 games. Like first game, your stars really aren't playing. Second game, they might play a series or two. Third game, they might play like a
half
quarter and a half, almost the full first half, and then that fourth game was all like bottom of the
back.
bench
Yep,
guys. But
yep.
now that it's gone to 3 games, like teams really are kind of all over the place with how they're doing it. And I wonder is like as we go down the road, like or get farther down, you know, go on farther and have more years of data looking back, I wonder if more teams will become standardized in how they do it based on how teams come out and play their first game, what kind of injury situations you're looking at. I'll be interested to see if there is more of a kind of uh, similarity across all teams in how they go about it.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye on that. Seasons moving forward. So we got 3 wide receivers right now who are looking for a new contract. We got Jamar Chase, CeeDee Lamb, Brandon Ayuk. Um, does them holding out at this point in the season affect their fantasy draft stock, do you think? Or you think they're still gonna go
Yeah.
where they're
I think
slotted? Because there's a
I think
chance that some of these guys do
yeah.
miss week 1 with the time frame we're getting to.
I think they're all slightly different situations.
Jamar's
Um,
2 years off of his
yeah,
date. I mean,
but there is like I've been seeing some stuff like there's some serious concern there. And CD, I think like I'd be a little more concerned about Chase at this point, maybe, but I don't know. I feel like CD's camp's been a little bit more quiet, maybe. And then the Ayuk thing's a little different. I think Ayuk's more so like I think he's playing. It's just I would put it as a downgrade if he ends up in Pittsburgh versus being in San Francisco. So then that's like there's obviously some risk there.
yeah.
But yeah, I do think like if you're if you're picking very early in like a snake draft and if McCaffrey's gone, like you're probably going Tyreek Hill instead of Chase or CD right now because at this point, like if you don't have like a conclusion on that, I think with that risk baked in, like it's probably safer just to take a Tyreek Hill, or even, I mean, you could even like start looking at like an Amon Ra or something like that, or Justin Jefferson if you're a Sam Darnold believer. I mean, it's getting a
Yeah,
little
so
bit scary.
fall in a spot or two potentially, but not out
Yeah.
of any rounds.
No, I mean the talent is definitely there, and like if you're sitting at 5 or 6 and one of those guys fall to you, you're like kind of over the moon, like loving that because you're going to jump up and probably take that risk because you might be getting the number one overall player from that. But it is a little bit scary if you're one of those picks with that whole situation. You want that kind of cleaned up as soon as possible for sure.
Yeah. All right, let's get into some QB battles. There's a couple left throughout the league taking place that are not finished out yet. Let's start with the Patriots. I'm a Patriots fan. I want to talk about this for a second. We have 4 quarterbacks still on the depth chart right now. Brissett, Drake May, Zappy's still there, and then Joe Milton is carrying it up the back. Oh man, they have the hardest schedule in the NFL this year. They start at Bengals, Seahawks, at Jets, at 49ers, Dolphins, Texans, Jags, Jets. It doesn't matter which one of those 4 quarterbacks are starting. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's 1-7 probably through the first 8 weeks for the Patriots.
Yeah.
So are you better off throwing Drake May in there now so you do have some footage of this is what we have? Do we want to keep him in
I
case we get
think,
to
yeah,
the number 1 pick for next year, like whether you have something or not?
yeah,
I
it's
could make
that's
the
like a tough
argument
one.
that every single one of these quarterbacks is going to be bad in this team, so just put May out there to start. What are you?
I see that. I'm concerned. There's a lot of good defensive lines in that group of teams you just listed, and good pass rushers. And I'm
Yeah.
worried about getting them killed. I'm worried about getting some Darnold action, like seeing some ghosts out there, kind of thing. Like I don't want to ruin him. I might. I really do think this is a situation where,
So
yes, I
you're
think
probably
like
keeping him
from what
off
I've
the
seen,
field until about like week 9 when they're facing the Titans.
obviously it's preseason, but from what I've seen in the preseason so far, I don't think there is much of a difference between Brissett and May. So I do think there is value in getting May out there, but I'm not sure I want to throw him out there for that. Like I think it's one of those things. I don't know exactly when the Patriots bye week falls, but like
It's later. It's like week
yeah.
13, 14.
So
It's not
I could see
close.
Brissett playing for a while and then
Yeah.
having like a period where May gets eased in. I mean, there like honestly, there might be some games where it's like 4 or 5 score games down the stretch and starters get pulled, and maybe you can get May some snaps in late in those games. Um, it's I don't know. There's not a ton of playmakers. There's not like too many great reasons to point out why the Patriots are going to be
The
super
concoction of what's going
competitive.
on there is not good. We have a
Yeah.
rookie quarterback that's not ready to play. The hardest schedule in the NFL.
Mm.
No weapons. We just traded away one of our key defensive
Yeah,
pieces.
Matthew Judon.
I mean, we
Yeah.
might be tanking going into the 3rd preseason game.
Tank in the preseason. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, it will be an interesting situation. I think I do think that like May probably gets protected for a bit and then plays. But if he plays like okay for like 9 games and you still go like 3-14 and you have the first overall pick, like
Yeah. Are you
probably
taking
not
like
probably not going quarterback. Probably you could probably start looking at, you know, helping out the rest of the team. I don't know where, that you could be in a situation like the Bears trading out of one and just try and stack a ton of picks. It worked out for them. Obviously, it did not work out for the Panthers trading up when they did that. But the Patriots, they might have a ton of leverage there. So I think you want to keep your guy healthy and don't want to try and ruin him too early. So um, maybe be smart, pick your battles there, and hopefully gives the fans something maybe to look forward to halfway through the season when the season's already over.
Yeah. All right. Next team still battling it out with some QBs. Broncos. They pick up Bo Nix. They have Jared Stidham, and then Zach Wilson's obviously there as well. I think it's getting more evident that Nix is probably going to start after his preseason.
Yeah.
He gets the ball out quick, and I
Yep.
know I said last week I don't take much from preseason. He looks like he's ready to play.
He fits what Sean Payton wants to do so well. It honestly, like, the scheme fit there. Like in college, he was incredibly accurate. I'm talking about his last year at Oregon. He hitting almost 80% completion percentage. He moved the ball, got the ball to his guys, and kept it moving. It's honestly, it falls somewhat in line to the Drew Brees sort
Yep.
of scheme of thought, where he was just putting it on his guys, not taking too many shots, but hitting the running backs out of the backfield, hitting the open guy underneath, whatever, and just keep it moving. And
And if
I
this
think,
does work with Bo Nix, I mean, that
yeah,
looks pretty bad for Russell Wilson.
yes, yes. But honestly, like Russell Wilson's the opposite of that. Russell Wilson is going to run around back there and then
Take
do
5
something
seconds to
crazy.
throw it. Yeah.
Yeah, he's very much not contained to a system where I think although Nix is actually pretty athletic and can function as an improviser, does really well when it's structured and he is boom, boom, 2 steps, put it on a guy and just keep it moving. So
Yeah.
I do think it makes a lot of sense for them to get Nix out there.
And then we'll move into that last team. We were just talking about Russell Wilson. We got the Steelers, Wilson and Fields. I think everyone thought that Wilson was going to be the starter when he signed with them. Uh,
Mhm.
Now it seems like there's a competition. I still
Yeah.
think you got to start with Russell, no matter how it goes. Uh, what do you think?
Yeah, I
I think
think
it's a
Fields
lot easier to move on to Justin than it is
yeah,
to move
to go back. Yeah,
back.
I
Yeah.
do agree. I think Fields fumbled like twice in that first preseason game too.
Yeah.
I am at this point. I thought the Steelers had made some nice strides in improving the
It's
offensive
also
line.
apparent their offensive line. Yeah. I was just going to say
I thought it was going to be. I've been telling people like like the Steelers' offensive line isn't going to be great, but I was thinking it's like probably the best we've seen in like 5 years.
it's
And
terrible.
man, I'm not sure I'm believing that anymore. We'll see. I mean, it's preseason. It is preseason. I keep telling myself that, but did not look good. And Russ with a bad O line is terrifying if he's just running around back there. Um, so yeah, it's man, I don't know. I definitely think they start with Russell. I don't see them starting with Fields, but with how those Pittsburgh fans are, man, if it starts bad, 2-4, 2-5, something like that, like poor start, I could see the calls for Fields being pretty loud. So
Yeah. Yep. All right. Let's get into, there's a couple team schedules I want to get into here. We're going to talk about two of the most polarizing teams in the NFL right now. My favorite Cowboys. We'll start with them. Their over under on the season is 10.5. And we all know they're going off 12 win season, 3 years in a row. Over unders at 10.5. I think this is the year it falls apart for the Cowboys. I don't think they have the weapons. I think Jerry Jones is a problem. Let's go through this schedule. You're gonna give me some W's, some L's. We're gonna see where they end up. What you think? They started at the Browns.
I'm a little surprised here. I'm actually going to have the Cowboys winning that game. They get the Browns at the perfect time. Chubb is not going to be back. You've got Jedrick Wills coming off an injury. I'm not entirely sure he'll be back. He hasn't been cleared yet. Jack Conklin, I think, will be cleared at the tackle spot, but he's not going to have any game action. This is his first time back. I think the Cowboys are catching him truly at the perfect time. So, assuming CeeDee Lamb is playing and everything like that, I actually do have Dallas taking that game.
All right. I like the description, but with 17 games, let's just rip through W's or L's.
Yes,
Let's second week they got Saints at home,
I've got another win there, 2-0.
Ravens at home,
2-1, that's a loss.
at Giants,
3-1,
at Steelers.
4-1. Cowboys off to a huge start. ESPN headlines everywhere.
Wow. All right, got Lions at home. Disappointed fans.
Loss,
49ers
loss,
at Falcons,
loss,
Eagles at home,
loss,
Texans.
loss. 5 game
Woo!
win streak. Oh my goodness, ESPN is killing them.
And
It's
I will say,
just
so I marked it out. The first half of the schedule is very hard for the Cowboys. Second half is where it lightens up. So
mhm.
you got them coming off 5 L's in a row. They're at the Commanders. What are they doing?
That is also a loss.
Oh my
I have
gosh. At this
six
point,
losses in a row. Complete, Complete meltdown.
All right. Giants,
They aren't losing to the Giants. They
Bengals
get
at
one there.
home.
That is, oh, man. I've gone back and forth. I will give them a win there.
All right.
It's like
Panthers,
a pity win. It's a night game. It's yeah.
Panthers,
Panthers, they're winning that game. I mean, come on.
Bucks
I have them winning that game,
at
kind of
Eagles.
giving them like a little bit of false hope that they could make the playoffs. That's a loss to the Eagles that sinks them.
And then you think Jaden Daniels on the last
I
game of this
I have Dallas losing that game in tank mode.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You have them going 8-9. That's not making the playoffs.
That is not making the playoffs.
It's still like you had a ton of losses on there and it still got close to the over under.
Yeah.
I'm staying away from the Cowboys over under.
Yeah, I could see I could see 12, 13 wins, and then I could also just see like disaster fall apart. That schedule is so brutal in the middle and things could
Yep.
just get headed south.
All right. The other team that's making all the headlines are the Jets. Their over under is 9.5.
Mm.
Tough start here, but let's go through it. All right. We got Jets over under 9.5. Give me some W's and L's at 49ers.
Monday Night Football, that's a loss, but Aaron Rodgers makes it through the game.
Okay.
So
At
that's a W.
Titans.
That is a win.
Patriots. That is a win.
Also a win.
Broncos.
Another win.
At Vikings.
That is another win. 4-1 to start.
Bills.
It's a home game. That's another win.
At Steelers.
That is a win.
At Pats.
That is a win.
Texans at home.
That is where they take a loss. It's a Thursday night game, and they ain't got it.
At Cardinals.
Give them the win there.
Colts at home.
There's another win.
Seahawks at home.
It's a win again.
At Dolphins.
Loss.
At Jags.
Loss.
Rams.
Loss.
At Bills.
Loss.
Dolphins at home.
Win.
See, this is what I saw with the NFL did this on purpose. They gave the Jets such an easy schedule for the first 60%, and in the last 5 games, they play at
Yeah.
Dolphins, at Jags, Rams, at Bills,
Yeah.
Dolphins. I
Even,
see this coming now. They're gonna headlines everywhere. Jets
yeah.
6-1, 7-1, and then it's gonna
Yeah.
come down the stretch. What do you have them? 1, 2, 3,
Even that
4,
Colts.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You do have them getting 11 wins here, so that'll
Yeah.
get them in the playoffs.
Yes.
And that's with a 4-game losing streak at the end.
Mhm.
So you have them going pretty comfortably over that 9.5 and getting in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Their schedule is favorable this year.
That Colts game is a Sunday night game as well. The Seattle game's a little scary, although it is off a bye week. Like it's those last 7 games are pretty brutal.
Yeah, they need to get off to with how their schedule is designed. They need a hot start.
Yeah, like anything worse than like 6-2 out the gate. Like if they start like 5-3, that's kind of scary.
Yep.
That's going to put them like firmly on the kind of fringe.
Yeah.
Especially in a division that has the Bills and the Dolphins, one of which is probably going to put up a decent chunk of wins this year.
Yep. All right, let's get into our division breakdown. Last week we did the NFC. This week we'll go through the AFC. Let's start off with the AFC North. Ravens, Bengals, Browns, Steelers. Ravens and Bengals both have an over-under of 10.5. Browns and Steelers are both at 8.5. So, I mean, a lot could be had in this division. One of the hardest divisions in football right now.
Yeah. I think this is the only division that I could see this year where all 4 teams could realistically finish over 500.
Mm-hmm.
It's just strong. It's how it is. It's competition up there. Every single team has a good defense. It's just like, that's just the bottom line. Cincinnati may be the weakest, but they have a very good defensive line, good pass rush. But I feel like every team also has some injury questions.
Yep.
Cincinnati, I'm kind of throwing Chase in there with the contract situation, but you also have Joe Burrow with the whole wrist thing. Like, is he going to be 100% coming back with that? and they're breaking a new OC there. You've got Nick Chubb on Cleveland. We don't know how that is, and Deshaun Watson like hasn't really shown his prime levels and met what that contract is paying
Well,
him.
listen, I tell you what, I think the Bengals are taking this division, and here's why. Uh, the Browns are paying Deshaun Watson $63 million this year. That's 25% of their cap. They also have the third hardest schedule in the NFL. You can cross them out from doing anything this year. The Steelers have the hardest schedule in the NFL, tied with the Patriots, with Justin Fields and Russell Wilson and that O-line. You can count them out of doing anything real. The Ravens have the fourth hardest schedule after their play last year. And then the Bengals have the sixth easiest schedule. So yeah, they have to play their own division games, but their schedule is much easier. Joe Burrow's back. I like them winning the division at plus 140.
Yeah, I think back in the spring, I think when we did, I had Cincinnati taking this division. I think it's probably will come down to Cincinnati or Baltimore. I probably have more offensive line concerns with Baltimore right now than Cincinnati, which is kind of crazy to say. Um, the Marius Mims injury is a little concerning. It seems like he's got a little something going on, but I think Cincinnati is going to be a really strong bounce back candidate for this year for sure. So I kind of agree with that.
Yeah, let's move down into the South. We got Texans, Colts, Jaguars, Titans. What stands out to you right away?
Yeah, just look. I'm finding it kind of hard without like serious injuries or something like that for Houston to not take this division.
Or a
I,
couple months ago, I said Jaguars, and I want to take that back. It's I might
yeah,
have the Jaguars missing the playoffs after some serious research over the past couple of
yeah,
weeks. Um, I like the
it's
Texans a lot. I think the Colts might be my dark horse team to make the playoffs.
the Colts should be interesting. Like far and away, Anthony Richardson is X factor of that team. They are going to go as far as he takes them, because we don't really know what we're going to get. He looked great in like 2 games last year that he played, which is such a small sample size. You just don't know. I do think that offensive line is solid. They obviously have a really good run game,
They have the
but
number three O line. They
yeah,
have Jonathan Taylor. They
mhm,
got Anthony Richardson. Um, I like they got a decent wide receiver room. Pittman just
mhm,
got a nice rookie in there. You
yeah.
got Shane Steichen. Um,
I am concerned with that Downs injury. Hopefully, that's not like anything long term because I don't think they have a ton of depth in that wide receiver room.
yeah,
They got the rookie AD Mitchell, but not really a slot guy. He might play some slot, but um, and then on defense, I worry about their pass rush. They really need a hit on their rookie Leatu Latu. They took in the first round. He really needs to hit for them because outside of that, I think they may struggle a little bit with their pass rush. But I could see the Colts being one of those sneaky sort of back end wild card teams for sure.
yeah. The Jaguars and the Titans, both of their O lines are in the bottom 10. I don't see them making a whole lot of noise. And let's move over into the East. Uh, Bills, Dolphins, Patriots, Jets. Other than the Patriots, anything can happen here. Who do you think's taking this division home?
Yeah, I kind of bounced around about it, and I think it's the Dolphins' year.
I
Uh,
agree. Yeah,
I was kind of like flip flopping. Like I
they had
wanted to go
though
Buffalo, but that
they
Milano injury is just too concerning. Like the Bills' like defensive depth is not great. Like I have some serious concerns. Their D line is absolutely stacked, but like the secondary and the linebackers, if they start racking up injuries, which they have had issues with in the past couple of years, like they're going to have some serious problems. They don't have a ton of playmakers, and I mean that's all Miami has. They got playmakers everywhere. So I am going Miami.
I think we're seeing three teams in the playoffs out of this
Yeah.
division.
I, I could see the Bills finishing like third in this division
Yeah,
even, but then still making
We
the
just went
playoffs.
through the Jets schedule. We think they're going to
Yeah.
get to 10, 11 wins.
Mhm.
The Dolphins, they just paid Tua, and with their recent history, they have to get a number one seed in order to do anything in the playoffs. So they're
Mhm.
going to make a harder push in that regular season than some other teams
Yeah.
will. And then again, the Bills are the Bills, so they're probably going to get 9, 10 wins. Like, yeah, got a strong division
I think
there.
the biggest thing for Miami is gonna be the pass rush. Like they have to like either Chubb has to come back like fully healthy, like looking really good, or Jalen Phillips has to come back like fully healthy, looking really good, or they have to hit on Chop Robinson. Like somebody's going to have to step up and be elite pass rushing threat for that defense to really kind of carry them there. Like especially if they can start forcing some turnovers, getting the ball back to that offense, like that's going to carry them a long way.
Yeah. Last side here, let's get into the West. We got Broncos, Chiefs, Raiders, Chargers. This division has a little bit of everything, some really good, some really bad. The Chargers are kind of the X factor here. I don't think
Yeah.
anyone really knows what they're going to be, but I think it's safe to assume that the Chiefs with a top 10 O line. Uh, that's a scary team.
Yeah. I mean, I'm gonna have to see it from Jawan Taylor before I believe that it's going to be much improved, but they're definitely the best team in this division. They do have like I have like some questions about their secondary, like moving on from Ladarius Sneed. They didn't really replace him with like a whole lot, so they're kind of hoping to do it within, and I hope that works out for them. But um, yeah, the rest of the teams this division, I think Las Vegas is close. They have pieces.
I don't
I don't know if it'll all come together.
you're a lot higher than I am on the Raiders. I have the
Yeah,
Raiders.
yeah.
I don't even have Devontae Adams on the Raiders by the end of the year.
That I mean that's fair. I could see it. I think that I think that Vegas will be close to a playoff push because I really do think they are better than Denver, and I do think they're better than the Chargers right now. I think that defense is going to kind of carry them a bit. And I think Minshew's a lot better quarterback than what they had going last year. So uh, I think
I
they'll
feel
do
like
enough.
Minshew may have benefited from being with Shane Steichen's offense, and people are expecting that same type of numbers in Las Vegas when it's not
I
going to
mean,
happen.
he did fine in Jacks at times too. I think he did more than I mean, Jimmy G was like horrible last year, like really bad. And Ed O'Connell, like he was a rookie. I mean, he honestly did okay for what he had, but like that quarterback situation was a nightmare last year. So anything with a pulse will probably be better. And I don't. I'm not saying that Vegas winning 12 games, but I think that defense keeps them in it a lot, and I think they hover around 500 enough where
So their
last
over
2 weeks of
under
the
is
season.
6.5. You got
Yeah,
them winning eight, nine
I had
games.
yeah I had them over that from much earlier, and yeah I do think like with 2 games left in the season, they'll be one of the teams where it's like if they win this and this other team loses here, like they'll be in that kind
Interesting.
of playoff situation.
Got it. Wow. All right. Um, even looking at this from when we did our division picks post of last season, like
Mhm.
just so much stuff happens in 3 or 4 months
Yeah,
that your opinions change. And I
yeah,
think I was like, this is the year Jacksonville is going to play well. Now I'm looking at it, I'm like,
yeah,
I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. Like, um,
yeah, yeah.
yeah. So new information,
Mhm.
change our answers, but we're getting locked in here. All
Yep,
right,
yep.
let's get into the good stuff. Fantasy football. How many days away is your draft?
Got one this weekend. That'll be the big one this weekend, and yeah, pretty excited.
Nice. Think I got my big ones in got a little while, probably almost 2 weeks. Last week what did we do last week? We did rookies and top breakout
We did,
players.
yeah, top players, yeah.
This week we have late round picks and stay away from picks. So
Mm.
we're gonna get wide receiver, quarterback, tight end, running back, late round, and stay away from. All right, let's start with late round wide receivers. Who should people be taking a look at?
So to start, I've got 2 rookies. One obviously just broke out in this last preseason game. Xavier Worthy of the Chiefs. Crazy speed. Hollywood Brown hurt. I think there's like huge opportunity in that Chiefs offense. Definitely one to watch. Although he is moving up draft boards quite a bit now. Then I've also got Lad McConkey, same division, wide receiver for the Chargers. They don't really have a wide receiver one right now, and you can get him pretty late on, and with Justin Herbert as your quarterback, could be a pretty good one. And then I have 2 much farther down. I think Rashid Shaheed, he's going ADP 144 right now, super late in drafts. He's the number 2 in New Orleans, but if you remember what Derek Carr did
He
with
had
Harry
some,
Ruggs
yeah.
before his whole situation. Likes throwing the deep ball, ton of speed. Not a bad little option there. Might be a little frustrating when he drops 20 on your bench, but he's there. And then Jahan Dotson, I think wide receiver 2 in Washington still has some value. I think they'll throw the ball quite a bit this year. I think Daniels is a pretty good quarterback, and he's going at 146 right now. Not a bad option, especially in PPR.
Yeah, I like those. I got Cortland Sutton here at ADP 115. Last year he was number 35 wide receiver. He's still the number one guy in Denver. With better quarterback play, I think you'd expect Cortland Sutton to hopefully get into a top 25, top 20 receiver on the year. That would be a good season for him.
Yeah.
I like Curtis Samuel, ADP 117 up in Buffalo. When he was with Joe Brady, he put up good numbers. I don't know what Keon Coleman's gonna be. So Curtis Samuel's right there in that top targets guy up in Buffalo. And then ADP 136 Jacoby Myers. Last year he was number 24 wide receiver. He's number 2 on the depth chart in Vegas, with, like you said, better quarterback play. I like him sticking around that. I mean, if he can get around that 24-20 number again, like that'd probably be good for him.
Yeah.
For a late round wide receiver.
Especially if Adams leaves like you're thinking. I mean, he could
Yeah.
end up just being the number 1 guy for the back half of the season. So yeah, I
Right.
do like that.
All right. Who are some wide receivers to stay away from?
My avoids, again, these aren't players that I dislike, but Nico Collins, he's going 29th overall. I don't really know
You
what
don't
that
like the
Texans
value there?
I like the player. I just don't know what that Texans wide receiver room is going to look like. I do think Collins probably has the best chance of being the X in that offense, but if you can get Diggs or Tank Dell for cheaper, I'd rather just take the dice roll on the cheaper player right now, because I just don't really know where that wide receiver room is going to fall. Then I'm gonna go Michael Pittman at 35 overall in ADP. Great player. He's been like consistent, but I just don't know what that passing game is going to look like in Indy. Now, if that Downs injury does end up being more long term, this could end up being great value, and I might look really stupid for that. But that's a little early for an offense that I think is going to be pretty run heavy, in my opinion. I know it's Shane Steichen, but still, that's a little early for me for Pittman. And then at 72, I have Christian Kirk. It seems like good value like that late, but he was actually coming on as the 3rd wide receiver in some sets in the preseason. Now this is preseason, so again, I could end up looking wrong here, but he was coming in as like the 3rd wide receiver in behind like Brian Thomas and Gabe Davis. Now I do think they'll run a lot of 3 wide, so he'll get a lot of action out of the slot, but it's a little early for me for a guy that may be coming off the field a decent bit. And lastly, I've got Keenan Allen. He's ADP of 70 right now. Similar kind of situation to Nico, but I think he's kind of going to be a bit of the odd man out, especially as the season goes on, as Odunze kind of gets ramped up. I think DJ Moore's definitely probably the guy to have in that offense, and he's getting up there in age, and I think the fall off is coming for Keenan.
Interesting. I could see that second half of the season for Keenan. Like maybe you draft him, he rips off a couple early weeks, and you trade him right away. Yeah, and then he
I
dies
can see
out
that.
in the second half. That might be a good
Yeah,
play for this year because he probably is going to put up some numbers in the first 6 weeks. Yeah, I mean, yeah. All right, here are my stay away froms. I just talked about it. Devontae Adams. I I just don't trust what's going on up there. He's shown frustration. I could see him not being on this team by the end of the year. So I'm just gonna stay away from him. Any Patriots wide receivers, I just don't know what I'm getting. Probably nothing. So we'll stay away from all of them. And then Ricky Pearsall with the 49ers. You showed me this stat, but the Florida Gators just flop like crazy in the NFL. And he's coming out of
yeah,
Gainesville, but he's number 4 on the depth chart for wide receivers. But then you also have to take into account, like, they have McCaffrey and they have Kittle. Like, he's really coming in at like the 7th option. I don't think he's going to get nearly enough volume to be playable.
yeah.
So I
He's
would stay
also
away from him.
yeah. He's also been hurt throughout camp, which for a rookie, it's so important to have those reps. So it's going to
Yeah.
be tough for him to get caught up. Yeah.
All right, let's get into quarterbacks, late round quarterbacks. Who do you like here?
I touched on it a little earlier, but Jaden Daniels, this Washington offense
Absolutely.
actually looks pretty decent. They should be losing in a lot of games,
I
having to
was
play
doing
up
a mock
tempo.
draft just before this podcast, and he's already risen up about a round.
Yeah.
over the
He
past
looked
day or
good in the
two from the
preseason.
preseason.
Yeah.
I could see him sneaking up a little more over the next week.
I mean, that rushing upside is real. He has some decent targets to throw to, and they're probably going to have to throw the ball. So I think he is a good option. He's outside top 100 in ADP right now.
Yep.
And then I was looking, there wasn't a ton else I liked, but I did notice Deshaun Watson at 159. That's like borderline undrafted. He, I don't think it's a horrible thing if Chubb doesn't ever end up coming back and they don't have like a fantastic run game and they're forced to throw it a decent bit. I mean, he's got a little mobility
I
and
honestly think he's just an unlikable player, and nobody
yeah,
like.
I could see that. But I mean, he's got some okay wide receiver. I
Yeah,
mean, he's got some decent pass catchers. David Njoku, Amari Cooper, like uh, Jerry Judy, yeah. Like, but I don't know. At that late in the draft, it's honestly not terrible value for a player that I think could potentially hit this year.
yeah. I like Kirk Cousins, ADP 145. There is a chance that he puts up stupid numbers in Atlanta this year. Throws for 1,000,000 yards. Uh,
Yeah,
could be top 10 quarterback on the fantasy year at that position at ADP
yeah.
145. Um, Stay away from quarterbacks. Who do you not like this year?
So I was looking at it again. I don't hate the player here, but Joe Burrow coming off that injury, like we don't know exactly what we're gonna get. You have like the potential of Jamar Chase sitting out, and he's going as like fifth or sixth quarterback off, going ADP 61 right now, and with not having much rushing upside either, like that just scares me a bit there at 61 for Joe Burrow. So I'll be staying away from him. And then this is going to hurt your soul, but Jordan Love at 71, just behind him. I think they're going to be running the ball a lot more. He was super efficient with the touchdowns last year, and I think with Josh Jacobs, you're going to see more rushing touchdowns this year. And there's not a, I mean, he is mobile, but he's not going to be putting up huge rushing numbers. So I just it's a little early for Love for me at 71, especially when you can get like a Jaden Daniels, who I think will be comparable in points in fantasy points a couple rounds later.
All right. I got two here. I got Aaron Rodgers. I just don't think the Jets are gonna put up crazy offensive numbers. I think it's gonna be a lot of Brees Hall, a lot of running the ball, a lot of good defense, and Aaron's gonna be putting up like what 12 to 18 fantasy points, which is like
Yeah.
not worthy of starting. Next one is at ADP 123. I got Herbert, great quarterback, great player. But the style of football they're going to be playing is not going to be conducive to him putting up a ton of fantasy points. I don't believe a lot of running. Again, a lot of defense, low scoring games, getting the ball out quick, accurately, not turning it over. Good player, just probably not a great fantasy quarterback this year under the Harbaugh system. All right, let's get into late round running backs. Give me a couple.
All right, I got to hit you with the homer pick. I've been talking about him, but Jonathan Brooks is going to 89. He is hurt. He will not be playing early in the season. So you can get him at a discount right now. But when he comes back, he should be the guy in Carolina. Carolina took some steps to improve that offensive line. They've got a quarterback that is very willing to check it down if he has to. Brooks can catch the ball. I mean, he's 3 down back. I don't know if the Panthers offense will be scoring a ton of touchdowns, but I think this is a guy that's going to be pretty much a target hog. He's going to get a bunch of carries, bunch of catches, and that should turn into points.
Yeah, he's the type
Uh,
of player that could win you the league.
yeah.
When he comes in the second half of the year and people are like, "Oh, damn, they were stacked," and then they got Brooks.
Hmm.
Kind of like how Kamara came in last year, like after like week 4 and just like lit it
Yeah.
up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who else you got?
Next, I have kind of another situation with Trey Benson going at 108. He's obviously in behind James Conner, so this is a bit of a handcuff situation, but it's like
Hmm.
it's
But
kind of a handcuff plus because he's also a rookie that they'll probably still want to see what kind of juice he's got. And if he comes out and kind of balls, then he'll probably carve a little role for himself. Um, and I think he's very talented, a great player out of Florida State. And yeah, I think in the Arizona offense, like it's not a great offense, but I do think there's opportunity there for him to carve out a little role. And then next, I have Jerome Ford going 112 just behind him. We don't know when Nick Chubb's coming back, and when Nick Chubb comes back, if he comes back, we don't really know what kind of player he will be. So Jerome Ford going that late, I know I talked about earlier some potential injury issues with the tackles there in Cleveland, but if those are cleaned up and the offensive line is back to humming, like you might have their RB1 right there sitting that late. That could be huge,
Hmm.
huge value. He was looked pretty good in relief of Chubb last year, and I think you can get him at a really solid value. And obviously he might get replaced at some point, but I think that's baked into his price right now. So, if you only get 8 weeks of it, fine. Like that's still pretty solid value for somebody that's going like 10th round.
Yeah.
And then I have one more, Ray Davis. He's going super late, 168, but he is handcuffed for James Cook. James Cook is looking to get potentially a ton of carries, ton of touches this year. And as a little bit of a smaller guy, a guy who's never taken on a ton of touches, like that concerns me for injuries. And so this is a high potential handcuff situation in what could potentially be a very, very good offense. Ray Davis, really, really solid last year with Kentucky. Rookie this year. Just go through the tape on to what he did to Florida last year. I mean, it's ridiculous. 26 carries, 280, and 3 touchdowns. I mean, dude is an absolute tank. Even with James Cook in, he still might get some goal line work, so potential there. But I think he's worth a late shot.
Interesting. Keep a look eye on that name. I got a couple here. Said this last week, I believe. Not last week, maybe it was a couple weeks ago, but Blake Corum with the Rams. I think he's gonna find a role for himself there. Big run team. Maybe not in the first couple weeks, but second half of the year could come on strong. And this is a handcuff situation, but Ty Chandler up there with the Vikings at ADP 161. He is number 2 on the depth chart, but still gets a decent percentage of carries. Being number 2. And then again, if number 1 goes down, he's in. So I like Ty Chandler. He's way down there, 161.
Yeah,
I think that's great value. Who are some running backs that you would not draft?
yeah, it's like a handcuff plus role. That's what I call it. It's
Yeah.
like handcuff, but like they might still have like a small little role for themselves.
Yeah.
But anyway, so
Handcuff
I've got
plus. I like it.
some 4 running back avoids, 2 of whom are pretty high up there. Might surprise some people. I'm actually avoiding Kyron this year, which is crazy. I think Kyron has the potential to be the number 1 running back this year, but he's at 15. He's had this foot issue that scares the heck out of me for the past couple of years, and they just went out and got Blake Corum, and I just there's some risk there. I don't know. I mean, there's always injury risk, but I just don't know how comfortable I am with that whole situation. I think I know in the past the Rams have definitely gone the workhorse route, but I could see them mixing in a bit. And if you end up with like a bit of a running back by committee with a guy that you drafted to be your number 1 running back, that's not good. And him going that early, that concerns me. So I'll be staying away from that one. Next is Travis Etienne. He's going 18. That's a bit early for me. He
Especially
was
with that
very
O line towards the bottom.
yeah, he was very efficient with his touchdowns last year. I think Trevor Lawrence was very unlucky with drops in the end zone and such. I think you'll see it swing a little bit more to towards the passing touchdown favor this year. Etienne's still going to be a good player, still going to get a ton of work in Jacksonville, but with the touchdowns dropping, I think he'll be a little farther down. That's just a bit early for me to be taking that player. Next, I'm actually going Aaron Jones. You were literally just talking about Ty Chandler.
Yeah.
I think that could be a situation where it kind of becomes a 1A, 1B thing. Now, Aaron Jones still a very good player, but I don't think that's going to be a very good team. I don't think they're going to be scoring a ton of touchdowns. Maybe he gets a decent bit of passing game work, but still 56 a bit early for me there. I think there's some better options. And then lastly, Jalen Warren, love the player, but a hamstring issue this late in the camp, that's just always going to be an avoid for me. So I'm out on Jalen Warren.
All right. I'm out on Najee Harris just because he's a disappointment every year. And basically what we're seeing with the Steelers offensive line, like
Yeah.
it's a question mark there. This one might be a shocker, but I don't like McCaffrey as the number 1 overall pick. He had a crazy year last year, and the likelihood that he repeats that and stays that healthy. And the 49ers O line this year is not good. It's towards the bottom, number 24. With all the work he's getting, I don't know. I mean, I don't have the number 1 draft, so I don't have picks, so I don't have to like think about this, I guess. But something
Mhm.
about CMC just worries me with an O line that far down there and the amount of work that he gets.
S-
Uh,
So if you had one, would you be looking at like wide receiver then or something instead of?
if I had one, I'm almost guaranteeing that I will take Tyreek. He
Okay.
plays 16
Mm,
games a year and has at least 2 weeks where he puts up a number that you can't lose.
yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
um, another stay away from running back, Kenneth Walker with Seattle. O line number 31. Anything with a bad O line, if I don't care how good of a running back you are, it's tough. It's really tough. Um, Same with Ramondre Stevenson, Patriots O line, 28th ranked. They're terrible. He might get a lot of volume, but he's just not going to pop off. There's a lot of running backs you can make cases for that like you should stay away from. The running back drafting it's very finicky.
Yeah. Yeah. 17 for 57 yards. Just
Mm,
only
yeah.
gets you so far. Like you need touchdowns, you need catches, and yeah.
Let's get into our last segments here for players in fantasy late round tight ends. Who do you have?
I've got two feature here. I got Brock Bowers going 95. I think um, the Raiders don't have a ton as far as playmakers. They have Devontae Adams and they have Jacoby Myers, Trey Tucker a little bit over the top, but I think they're going to have to cycle in another guy, and I think they're going to use him a bit as a chess piece, as a true playmaker, and especially as the year goes on, I think he's going to get broken in. You might see some huge games from him coming down the stretch. And then I have Dalton Schultz. He's going very late. And
Yep.
if you just want a piece of that Texans offense, he's going to be about the cheapest you can get. And it's going to be an offense that I think is going to kind of just swing around. You don't know who will be the guy each week, but there will definitely be at least one, maybe two guys every week because they're going to put up points and yards. And I think that's not a bad dart throw to take there.
Yeah. Similar situation with Cole Kmet. I think he's gonna get numbers. It might not be every week just with the amount of weapons they have, but I think he's gonna get his. And then way down there at ADP 187, Tyler Conklin was the number 19 tight end last year for the Jets. I would just assume with better quarterback play that he would be better than 19. Probably not a
Yeah.
top 10 tight end, but
Yeah.
he might sneak into that
Streaming option, though, maybe.
number
Yeah.
that 15 tight end range,
Mhm.
just with some better quarterback play. Do you have any stay away from tight ends? I honestly I was looking through the list and I could make a case why any of the tight ends could have a great year. I was struggling to
Yeah.
find
Yeah.
bad ones.
I was struggling a little
Every
bit.
team's got a good tight end. Like,
Yeah. So I love the Falcons this year, but I've seen it in previous years. Like I will be okay if I miss on Kyle Pitts. Like
yeah,
he's going at 60. Like if this is the year he breaks out, like I'm not gonna feel bad about it because at this point I'm like over it. I do think that offense will be pretty good, but I'm out on Kyle Pitts. I'm just not gonna deal with that whole situation. Him at 60. And then the other one, TJ Hawkinson, he is going 119 very late, but that's just an injury situation that I just don't think it's worth it. I don't think you're going to see him for at least the first half of the season. And although he's a very, very good player, I don't know if rostering him in a redraft for
by the
a
time
full
the
half the
Vikings get him
season
back, they might be out of a playoff race and he might not
and
come back at all.
yeah,
It,
exactly.
yeah,
So I don't think that it's worth spending a pick there. Honestly, like let him go. Like you might even be able to wait 4 weeks and the guy who drafts him drops him. And if you
yeah,
really want him, then you can pick him. Like I wouldn't spend the pick now.
I like it. I agree with that. All right, let's get into some gambling, some fun stuff here. Gonna take you through some season long bets, passing yards leader, rushing yards, MVP, stuff like that. So let's start with regular season passing yards leader. Who do you have?
I was bouncing around on this one. I was struggling. I really wanted to go Dak actually. Just to make you mad, but also because I think they're just going to have to throw because they're just not going to have a running game. But
That
I,
is a
I
good
just
point. Yeah.
I don't think I can get away from CJ Stroud. I think they're going to be slinging it everywhere. He's got playmakers everywhere. He put up crazy yards last year with his revolving door wide receiver room. It seemed like they get a new guy injured every week, and I think those guys hopefully stay healthy this year. And CJ puts up. I mean, you could be seeing 5,000 plus this year.
Yeah. Uh, yeah. Especially after that rookie campaign. I'm gonna
Mm,
go with Tua. He's fifth on the list at plus 800. I think he just got paid he's super comfortable in that offense. Tyreek's still there, Waddle's still there, McDaniels. I think he's going to put up ungodly numbers this year in the regular season. Let's go to season long rushing yards leader. Who do you got?
Flip flopped around on this one as well, but I actually like that value, Derrick Henry at plus 1,000. I think he's going to get a ton of burn. There's not really like looking at that running back room. There's not really anybody else that they're going to go to. I think the Ravens are going to be leading in a lot of games. I would imagine he's going to be getting close to 20 carries a game. Lamar Jackson's going to help open up holes because defensive ends are going to have to stay honest. They're not going to be able to crash down on him. You let him get ahead of steam and don't have somebody diving at his legs from the edge. Like I could see a pretty big year from Henry. I think that's really good value.
Interesting. I wasn't high on it, but you may have just convinced me there now that I think about it. I have Jahmyr Gibbs at plus 2,000, 10th on the list. With that O line and the Lions offense, I think his yards could be off the charts. Let's get into season long receiving yards. Who do you got?
I took Tyreek.
I did
If
too.
he
It's
stays
plus
healthy,
600. Honestly, at
yeah,
plus 600,
that seems like
pretty good
crazy
value.
value.
Pretty
I was
good
like, no
value.
way. Like
I thought it was going to be like plus 200
that's
or
literally exactly what I said when I saw that. I was like, that's crazy to me because like that seems like you're literally betting on that number for him to just stay healthy for the whole year.
yeah.
Literally, like that's what it feels like to me because like other guys might have huge years, but like it's pretty hard to keep up with Tyreek when he's going to drop like 250 in a game at some point in time this year. You know, like
Mm-hmm.
he's just that insane. Like I, at the beginning of the year last year, the only guy that was sort of capable of keeping up was like Justin Jefferson before he got hurt. But like he doesn't have a quarterback anymore. Like
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, maybe Jamar Chase, I guess, but nah,
Yeah, I
I'm
have a
going
couple.
Tyreek for sure.
Yeah. Let's most sacks. Who do you got?
So I went Miles Garrett. I would love to see what the long shot number is on Bryce Huff. I couldn't find it, but
I got Miles Garrett
for
as
the Eagles.
well.
But
Yep.
I think Miles Garrett.
Um, regular season MVP.
I went with CJ Stroud. Same thing. I think he's just going to put up
You
stupid
almost
numbers.
have to tie in your passing yards leader with your
Yeah.
season MVP, and that's where I'm like thinking, wait, this might be a nice little. I have Tua MVP plus 2,500. You could
Mhm.
parlay some of these for a crazy. If you get passing yards leader, season MVP, and I throw Tyreek receiving yards leader in there, that
Yeah.
could.
I
That's
mean, there's definitely some correlation there for sure. So,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. You got CJ Stroud. I got Tua. So we just got different quarterbacks here going for big yards.
Yeah. I mean, MVP is going to be a quarterback. I
Yeah.
think it's
Defensive rookie of the year.
defensive rookie of the year. I actually went a little different. I think Nate Wiggins, really, really
Out of
good value.
Clemson. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Plus 2,500. Really good player out of Clemson, going to a defense where I think he should play. Rave reviews out of camp for him. And he's got that dog in him. Like he plays aggressive. He lets you know about it. I think he's a guy that's, can put up some interceptions, make some big splash plays, some catchy plays that, gets the attention. I think it's a little bit of a down pass rushing class. So I definitely think the cornerbacks have a good opportunity here this year to win that one.
All right. I got Terry and Arnold at
Yeah.
plus 1,200 after the Lions win 15 games in the regular season. Going to be an
Yeah,
easy,
I was
easy.
between those two, but Wiggins had the longer odds, so I went with the Wiggins. But yeah, I definitely could see that as well.
And then last one here, offensive rookie of the year.
I got Jaden Daniels
I
at
don't know
plus
how
four seventy five.
you wouldn't take Jaden Daniels at that number.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
Caleb Williams is almost even money. And with the amount
mhm.
of weapons that they have on the team, I don't think Caleb Williams is winning offensive rookie of the year.
Yeah. But
And
the weapons definitely help him though. Like
yeah, but when you look at
it'll
Jaden
make his stats
Daniels,
look
when
good.
you look at Jaden Daniels and how he doesn't have weapons as many,
Yeah, but they don't factor that in. They just like, oh, he threw for more yards. Like, come on.
he's going to be
Like,
running. He's going to be running more.
yeah,
Their
I
offensive
do
line
agree.
is worse. If
Yeah.
if Jaden Daniels plays good football and Caleb Williams plays good football, Jaden Daniels might have a better chance of winning that. Is what I'm thinking.
Yeah, but if they both play a similar football, I think Caleb Williams will have better numbers, which I think is why it's baked into having that big of a gap because all the playmakers that Caleb has is going to make him look better, where Jaden's going to have to do more to make himself look better. Although I still do have Jaden Daniels taken. I really do believe in the player there.
Interesting. Yeah. All right. So that was gambling on some season futures. We'll probably get into a few more next week. But that was episode 2 of season 2, getting back in it. Regular season's getting here, a couple more weeks away.
Yeah.
Any closing remarks here?
Only one preseason game left. Then we got, that off week, and then we're back in action. It's getting close. We're getting excited. Keep up with us, follow our stuff, and we'll take you through the season.
Yeah. It's fantasy drafting time. Let's get it.
Mhm.
Don't forget to follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at screenplay_podcast. New episodes every Wednesday, 8 a.m. on your favorite streaming platforms. Thanks for listening. We'll see y'all next week.